Ducktales was a Walt Disney animated series based upon Uncle Scrooge and the Duck Universe cartoons. It was about Scrooge McDuck and his three grandnephews who seek to hunt for treasure and protect it from the thieves and villains of the show. It was an adventure and comedy series which ran for 4 seasons as from 1987 to 1990. And without wasting much time, let us get to remember the characters that featured in the original show, and then see the original voices that helped in the voicing department, some of the people who are still alive, and most of whom are no longer here with us in 2025. We shall begin with the triplets called Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who were the nephews of Donald Duck and the grandnephews of Scrooge McDuck. Huey was the one with red, Dewey with blue, and Louie with green. They were anthropomorphic white ducks who loved to provoke Donald Duck's easily triggered temper, and were also seen helping Scrooge in his adventures. They were also members of a scouting organization called the Junior Woodchucks, where each one had their own ranks. They loved to prank others and cause mischief mostly to Donald, and what they didn't like was taking baths and being caught and punished by their uncles. All these ducklings were voiced by one talented woman called Russi Taylor, who was also the original voice of Minnie Mouse. She was married to Wayne Allwine, who was also the original voice of Mickey Mouse, who were both named legends in Disney Studios. Sadly, Russi Taylor passed away on July 26, 2019 at the age of 75, and her cause of demise was from complications of colon cancer. Donald Duck was the uncle to the 3 boys we stated, and was a loving duck who loved the boys even with their pranks and mischiefs. He was also the nephew of Scrooge McDuck, and was seen to be a Navy soldier in the show. He was a quick-tempered duck and was also cursed with bad luck, but he was always there for his family and the ones he loved. He always acted as the father figure to the boys, and was in a good relationship with them throughout the series. Voiced by the iconic Tony Anselmo, who has been voicing Donald Duck since 1985 following the passing of Clarence Nash, who was the original voicing member. He is also a Disney legend, and is still voicing the character to date. El Capitan was one of the antagonists in the series, and was once a sea captain from Spain who had a lot of gold in his ship. But one day he lost the ship and then spent the rest of his existence looking for the ship. He even broke the Beagle boys out of jail and hired them to help him look for his lost ship. This captain was voiced by the great Jim Cummings, who is an American voice actor and podcaster, and we know him for his voice of Winnie and Tigger from Winnie the Pooh and the Tasmanian Devil since 1991. He joined YouTube in 2023 with his channel called Tuned In with Jim Cummings, where he breaks down all his characters that he has done since 1984. Taurus Bulba was another antagonist in the series, who was an evil anthropomorphic Russian-accented bull that was a criminal mastermind serving 99 years in jail. He was known to be a dark and menacing character, and actually the most ferocious villain to ever appear in the series. He was a cunning bull with immense physical strength, and was actually wealthy in terms of money and resources, and this helped him to continue running his criminal operations while in jail. It was James Monroe Iglehart who voiced him, and is an American actor and a comic book writer. He is an award-winning actor for his role as the genie in the original Broadway production of Aladdin. And now to the famous Scrooge, who was Donald Duck's rich uncle and the grand uncle to the triplets. He was actually the richest duck in the world, and was the Elon Musk of his time. He was a famous industrialist that had a vault filled with money, in such a way that he could swim in the gold coins just as we swim in pools. He had worked for his wealth through years of hard work and perseverance, and was a very intelligent duck who was also an adventurer and opportunist. And even with all that wealth, he only used it whenever he had to, not even 1 cent more. He was voiced by Alan Young, who was once an English-American actor and a radio personality. He was married 3 times and blessed with many children, but he sadly passed away on May 19, 2016 at the grand age of 96 years. He passed away from natural causes. Big Time Beagle was one of the 7 Beagle boys who was mostly in charge of the others unless their mother was around. And ironically, he was not big, but was the shortest with a baby face when compared to the others. What made him a leader was his cunning skills and his intelligence. And just like any other short people, he was short-tempered, and his patience was mostly tested by his brothers, who were dumber than him. It was the voice of Frank Welker that voiced the guy. Frank is also responsible for voicing Fred Jones in Scooby-Doo and Santa's Little Helper in The Simpsons. Duckworth, aka Butler Johann, was the no-nonsense butler of Scrooge McDuck. He was an anthropomorphic dog who worked for Scrooge even before the boys moved in. He was a gentleman who was devoted and graceful, and also very loyal to Scrooge and his work. He worked for Scrooge for very many years, and Scrooge trusted him because he was not greedy and always took pleasure in helping others. He was voiced by Chuck McCann, who was an American actor and a puppeteer who worked in his field for more than 70 years. He passed away on 8th of April, 2018 at the mighty age of 83 years from a heart failure. Gyro Gearloose was an anthropomorphic chicken who was a famous inventor, but his inventions never worked the way he wanted them to. Scrooge and Donald Duck were his buyers, and they often complained how his inventions were not working properly. He was a good-natured guy, and also had an assistant who was a small robot with a light bulb for a head. He was voiced by Hal Smith, who was an American actor that voiced more than 300 films and cartoons since the 1930s to the 90s, just before passing away on January 28, 1994 from a heart attack at the age of 77. Admiral Grimitz was the Navy commander on the aircraft carrier that Donald Duck was enlisted on. Since Donald was always in bad luck, he always caused mistakes and havoc that made the commander always angry at him. Voiced by Peter Cullen, who is mostly recognized for voicing Optimus Prime in the 1980s Transformers the Animated Series. Captain Fry was a minor character that appeared in one episode called Scrooge's Pet, and was just a dog captain of a ship who was voiced by Phil Hartman, a former actor and comedian who was active since 1969 until his passing in 1998. His wife was called Bryn, and was responsible for his passing. Mrs. Crackshell was the mother of a boy called Fenton Crackshell, and was a woman who usually sat around at home to watch soap operas on her TV. Gandra Dee was the receptionist in Scrooge McDuck's Bean Factory, and was a bright lady who studied advanced robotics in school. Dijon was just a thief and a minor antagonist. Fenton was the son of Miss Crackshell, who we discussed earlier, and was a superhero and a bookkeeper who loved saving the world and helping Gandra Dee, kind of like Superman and Lois. And finally Doofus Drake, who was a friend of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and was known for his huge appetite and his large appearance.